5 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m. It is Monday, April 8th, 2019. 41 degrees outside. Tommy Gluff, your morning mayor in the house. Shane Matobin on the line, half man, half amazing, in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. And boy, what a 41 degrees outside. It's a nice, balmy, warm day with rain in the forecast, Shane. So what can I tell you?
All I know is I'm not pasty. I got color now.
You got some sun yesterday, did you? A little bit?
Yeah, I got some spring color.
All right. Sounds good to me. All right. Hey, boy, let's see. From our text line, it says, just an FYI, there's no sound on the streaming app. Oh, great. Seems like you still have a problem with the app, so listen to you guys. Man, I don't know, Shane. It's been one of those days, so I don't know. Maybe everything isn't cleared up yet, so I don't know. It's been a mess.
The best part is just the beginning.
Well, I know, yeah. Yeah. Well, it's Monday again, Last Monday, everything went south, so maybe everything went south again this Monday. I don't know, but anyway, we're semi up and running, so I apologize to our listeners out there that can't get us. So I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't. So I don't know. We go. There are little widget people working, and I don't know what they're doing. I don't know where they are. I don't know who they are, and I have no clue.
Yeah, you should check to see if the Oompah are on strike.
Well, I don't know. Somebody's on strike, obviously. But, well, take a quick look at our weather. We're looking at 49 degrees today, and as I say, there's a little rain, maybe close to a quarter of an inch, a little bit more than that, maybe on and off during the day. Tuesday, 42 degrees, 29 will be the overnight low. Rain again. They're calling for 3 to 5 inches, and they got about a 75 or 80% chance of rain. And then Wednesday, that rain will turn to snow, they tell me, 1 to 3 inches. I'll believe it when I see it, but 36 degrees will be the high, 22 the overnight low. And then Thursday, 41 will be the high, 21 the overnight low. So we're going to get some cold overnights coming up here. Friday, 39 will be the high, and there's also some snow in the forecast, less than an inch predicted. 18 the overnight low, so getting down there pretty good. So these 40 days, the trees are starting to bud, and then they'll be crunched and all turn black and have to wait again. So we've had that before, certainly. So temperatures around the area right now: Livingston's 41 degrees, Manhattan's 40, Three Forks is 41. Let's see, Gallup Gateway is 40 and cloudy. Ennis is 43, Gardner 42, Big Sky is 37, and at the airport in Belgrade, it's right at 40 degrees. We're right at 41 here in our lavishly appointed studios, of course, in beautiful downtown Bozeman. And, well, it's Monday. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, so
That's right, Mayor. We'll fix it.
Well, for those of you who can't stream, you can get us online. We're recording the show. That's working. So we will have the show up. So if you can't stream it, perhaps you can listen to it on computer or on our app somewhere other than just live. So let's hope Let's hope they can get this all cleared up. I don't know what the issue is, and of course I'm at the bottom of the food chain when it comes to information about anything. So
I'm not even on the chain.
You're not even on the chain.
I'm just on the string at the end of a can.
Yeah, you're chained out. So I don't know. Yeah. So. Well, anyway, we are able to get this day in history, so, gosh, we need to kind of crank that up and make sure that we know which day we're on and all that, whatever. Let's see, Shane. Ponce de Leon in the news again. Juan Ponce de Leon, 1513, discovered, claimed Florida for Spain. Am I on the right day? Didn't we do that the other day?
Yeah. We talked about the fact he died looking for the fountain.
Yeah, I don't know. He's goofing around down there, so I don't know. He did a lot in 1513, apparently.
He did, yeah.
1913, 17th Amendment to the Constitution providing for the popular election of U.S. senators was ratified. Before that, the states picked the senators in the legislature. Yeah.
And James Wilson was the fellow that advocated the change. There were many advantages to the original method when they first of electing senators back when your Constitution was put together and originally approved. But prior to the Constitution, a federal body was where states effectively formed nothing more than permanent treaties with citizens retaining their loyalty to the original state. However, under the new Constitution, the central government was granted substantially more power than before. And the election of senators by the states reassured, are you ready, anti-federalists that would be able to control and provide some protection against the swallowing up of the state and their powers by the federal government, providing a check on the power of the federal government. So all these, new wave, Green Deal Democrats, once again, have it wrong. This is so there's more independence within the federal government. There you go.
Well, okay.
All right.
I'm excited about that. Wow.
Yeah, and the fascinating thing about it, is it was proposed, let's see here, April 8th, 1913, and ratified by 36 of the states. But it was proposed in 1912. So, these things can get approved relatively fast. They're not hard. Once they start the process, they can go through it pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. Well, 1918, First Lady Betty Ford was born Elizabeth Bloomer in Chicago. So Betty Ford went on to have her own clinic.
That's right, the Betty Ford Clinic in Palm Springs, which followed up with, before the Eisenhower built a clinic down there. But the amazing thing about Betty Ford is she brought to the forefront alcoholism, because she admitted that she was an alcoholic, and it's pretty amazing. She changed the whole viewpoint of addiction in the United States in a large degree to the middle class.
Right. And according to the president, wore a respectable Republican cloth coat.
All the time. Yes.
She did, yeah. 1935, the Works Progress Administration was approved by Congress, and nobody has a clue what the Works Progress Administration was, Shane.
Well, it was
except maybe you.
Yes, I do. It was established on May 6, 1935 by, are you ready, Executive Order 7034.
Ooh.
And it was ended up the smaller project called Federal Project Number 1. There were 4 projects dedicated. There were Federal Writers Protection and Historical Records Survey, the Federal Theater Project, the Federal Music Project, and, of course, the Federal Art Project. Now, the interesting thing about this, it ended up employing 225,000 performers around the United States, and its original budget was $4.9 billion. Of course, he also developed under this guise, because he did it by executive action, employing people to build bridges. In fact, the Going to the Sun Highway, which you should go on in Glacier Park, was built by this program. It dissolved June 30th, 1943. It employed over its history from 1935 to 43, 8.5 million Americans. And its annual budget was $1.3 billion.
Wow. There's a Glacier Park?
Yeah, there is, Tom. It happens to be in your state. Boy, it's like our show. It's shared with Canada.
There you are. Yeah. 1952, President Harry S. Truman seized the steel industry to avert a nationwide strike. Boy, could you do that today? Do you think? Can you seize the automobile industry? Or can a president seize anything?
So here you go, you green lovers out there, the Green Deal. 1952 steel strike. Obviously, the United Steelworkers of America went on strike, and it was scheduled to begin on April 9th, 1952. Remember that you're in the war with Korea, and towards the end, President Truman nationalized it. He nationalized the steel industry before the workers walked out. Anyway, the steel company sued, of course, to regain control of their facilities. On June 2nd, 1952, in a landmark decision, United States Supreme Court, Youngstown Steel and Tube Company versus Sawyer, 343 U.S. 579, But the Supreme Court decided that the president lacked the authority to seize the steel mills. The workers struck to win a wage increase. Strike lasted 53 days and ended July 24th, 1952, basically or essentially the same terms the union had proposed 4 months earlier. So now precedent has been set. You can't nationalize industry in the United States.
Well, good for him.
Well, that's important.
Well, it is important. Yeah, we don't want the president just taking over parts of the United States.
Right. Yeah. Well, but it would probably apply to any effort by legislation too.
Yeah. Well,
so there's already precedent, right?
Well, I was going to say, you don't want everybody, you don't want Congress saying, "Hey, you got to retrofit every building in America."
Yes,
you don't want them saying anything like that. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, 1973, artist Pablo Picasso died at the age of 91. Quite a guy. One of the few artists of the time that was well known by almost everybody.
Well, that's right. He was, a modern artist of the 19th century. He really changed the concept of marketing because he was a pretty good marketer, obviously. Mm-hmm. He was known for having accomplished several things, mostly being a cubist, but he had several periods in his life. People may know these: the Blue Period, 1901 to 1904, the Rose Period, 04 to 06, African Influence Period, 1907 and 1909, Analytic Cubism, 1909 to 1912, Synthetic Cubism, 12 to 19. And also was referred as the Crystal Period in his life. Neoclassic painter, famous for specific works of art, particularly murals. He was very busy with murals during the Spanish Civil War, and made a fortune selling even just a drawing on a piece of paper.
There you go. All right, we got to take a quick break. We don't have Montana News and Agriculture, of course. Who knows when we'll have them again. But anyway, we do have some words from the Bryan Law Firm. And, of course, we've got to do our weekly emergency test. So we'll do that. When we come back, we'll be talking about everybody getting AIDS and people shooting themselves and all kinds of great stuff happened on this day. It's a wonderful Monday. Aren't you glad you're here? maybe the streamers are getting a break from all the nasty stuff we're going to talk about when we come back. Stay tuned. A lot more Morning Soapbox to come. We'll be right back. 20 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m. It's Monday, April 8th, 2019. 41 degrees outside. Tommy Galoff, your morning mayor in the house. Shane Taubman, half man, half amazing, on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia, and your tune of the KMMS Morning Soapbox. Some of you, anyway. We're not sure who is and who isn't, but well, if you're listening, we're grateful that you chose us to spend your morning with. If you're not listening to us, well, boy, we are upset about that. So we're unhappy if you're not able to hear us out there streaming or on the phone or whatever, because this is getting pretty old for us here too. I mean, it's we're a little frustrated here that when we think we got everything going, and then all of a sudden you come in Monday morning and nothing works. So. I don't know. Gets a little old, so.
It's the 21st century, and boy, I'll tell you, technology is I mean, it's scary.
It's a bear, isn't it?
Yeah, it can cause a lot of issues.
Not the word I wanted to use, but it is a bear.
Yeah.
Hey, don't forget our poll question of the day. You should do this, Shane. Bungee jumping or skydiving? Which would you rather do, bungee jumping or skydiving? Or, oh, heck no.
Oh, heck no. Yeah, right. No, that's stuff you do in the 20s, the decade of me, my, and I. Okay,
that's right. Yeah, I was going to say now, George Bush 41 jumped out of a plane with another guy hooked to him. When he was like 90 or something like that, or 89, or I forget what it was. But the
last time I think was within a year of his death.
Yeah, I was going to say he got down there okay.
This is a hardcore guy. When you get shot down in an airplane in the middle of the Pacific, and you're in a small, very small raft, and then out of nowhere a submarine surfaces and rescues you. You go, okay, I'm good to go on this one. I think I can. I've got 9 lives, baby.
I would say so. I think you got something going on there. Well, continuing with this date in history, on 1977, on this date, the Clash's self-titled debut album was released in Britain. So more of the British invasion, the end of the British invasion, I guess. The Clash came along. So
Really? Did you? I don't remember it. Maybe I do. Maybe I'd recognize their music. But
yeah. Are they Should I Come or Should I Go? I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe that's it. Well, then I know those bands.
That may be it. I don't know. I don't remember.
You're the man.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. I'll look it up during the break and let everybody know what the Clash songs were that we at least have in our vast library here. Well, 1990, you might remember the name Ryan White. He was an AIDS patient whose battle for acceptance gained national attention, died at age 18, and I think that was the time when people started to change their impression of the AIDS virus from, bad behavior on people's part to a actual disease, and very, very bad one. Now,
and a communicable disease.
A communicable disease, too, yeah. And... So in recent years, though, certainly people have we've come to the point, I think, where the disease can be managed, much like diabetes can, and some other things can, as long as you adhere to your doctor's orders and proper medications and that kind of thing. You can survive quite. Magic Johnson certainly hanging in there, and
right.
but. There for a while, boy, AIDS was a death sentence. You were just gone. Yeah, once you got it was over for you, because you were susceptible to every cold, scratch, infection.
Well,
anything. Yeah.
And doctors, rate diseases of this in three categories: fungal, bacterial, and viral. And this was a virus, which made it very complicated to figure out how to solve it, and even be able to tell you had it. They didn't have until 1991, 92 a test to be able to determine that you had it.
Yeah, it was. That was a tumultuous time, boy. Everybody was scared to death during that time. Talk about the Biden no touching.
Yeah, exactly. This was
pretty much a no touching time too.
Yeah, arm's length, right?
Right. Well, in 1992, right after Ryan White, tennis player Arthur Ashe announced that he had AIDS, and so that was.
That was a sad story because he was the first Black American who was successful as an American professional tennis player. He won 3 Grand Slams. The United States Davis Cup team had him. He won a singles title at Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, the Australian Open. And he retired in 1980. He was ranked #1 in the world in 1968, and he was just a remarkable individual. He went out and stumped for AIDS or HIV because in the early 1980s he had a heart bypass surgery. And he got infected by blood from a transfusion he received. So, and that, of course, they found out after the fact. He did in 1993. Bill Clinton gave him or awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He was one of the great first sports people in the early 80s, and he was one of the guys that started to see the size of money in tennis grow. He made $1.5 million during his years as a tennis pro. Not bad back in 1985.
From our text line, 478-8298, Miss Kitty of Gunsmoke fame died of AIDS from a blood transfusion. And that was another thing that happened back in the time that people got it from their dentist without, the cleaning of the instruments properly and all of that. So it was a very fearful time back there in the 90s and so.
Yeah, it was horrific here in Canada because the Red Cross in Canada was the storer of all blood banks, and they collected the blood, stored it, and there was a huge scandal because thousands of Canadians were infected by contaminated blood, which resulted in the collapse of the Red Cross handling the blood bank in Canada. Now it's a federal operation, and people actually use it to go in and get and store their own blood, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in case you're in an accident or something, they can give you your own blood back. Yeah, so
yeah, you can take about 4 pints a year, 3 to 4 pints a year, depending on your health, and there you go.
Okay. 1994, rock singer musician Kurt Cobain of Nirvana was found dead in Seattle at the age of 27 of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He joined the 27 Club chain, which is quite popular with Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and Jim Morrison of The Doors. The list goes on of people who became famous in their early 20s or whatever, and boy, success took them over in about 7 years. Winehouse from England, the singer.
Yeah, another one. Most recent, right?
Yeah, another one dead at 27. So, boy, it's a sad commentary on the industries that these folks get into. That drugs and alcohol and depression and fame and loss of their identity and who they are.
And at that time, because of the way the industry was built, these people were in the studio recording. They were out promoting their albums, going to radio stations. They were traveling and doing concerts. I mean, there was a 24/7, 365 a year job. And a lot of the guys that have survived to this day, I mean, look at just came out of heart surgery to do his tour at 75. I mean, really.
I know.
Oh my God.
Guy's doing better than I am at 75.
I know. And the guitar player Keith Richards.
Keith Richards, yeah.
One of the
Who thought that guy would be alive today?
Well, 40 years ago, he went to a doctor in Switzerland and said, "Look, I can help you because of your drug problem. Come back every 2 years or twice a year," which he did. He's done ever since. And he had a total blood.
We'll just give you a total blood transfusion. You don't have any withdrawal symptoms. You don't have anything. You can do drugs to your heart's content. So
it worked.
Oh, there you are. Hey, when you got money, you can have more fun, I guess. Well, we're going to have more fun after the break at the bottom of the hour. So we don't have Montana State News. We're going to have about a minute of Montana State News and probably a little bit on Ben Shapiro, and we'll be back. So,
all right.
So things aren't quite as they should be, but hey, as the popular phrase, we are working hard to fix it. So I don't know if anybody's doing anything right now, but anyway, we'll be back right after this. 28 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Monday, April 8, 2019, 41 degrees outside, a nice day shaping up, Shane. We're going to have rain on and off during the day, and I don't know, they're talking about snow, but I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it, I guess. I'm not sure we're going to get that snow yet, but we'll see. You would have it before we would, so... do you have anything up there? See, when I stop talking, you talk, right? Okay.
All I can tell you is, over the weekend it was nice but cold, and you can still see your breath, which tells me it's going to snow in Bozeman.
Okay. Well, there you go. So, okay. Oh boy, I don't know. I'm trying to turn my hotspot off here because we got the hotspot in the studio on, so I won't have to use the data of my phone. That's taken care of. So,
which is the only reliable thing you have in there. Is your phone.
I know, Zara. My phone. You can't make or answer a call on the thing, but you can do a bunch of other stuff with it. So that's the only reason I have it. My wife says, "Why do you have that phone if you can't answer it?" Well, I pull it out of my pocket and. It presses everything. It sends me to the map of Zimbabwe, and I'm trying to answer a phone call, and I can't get out of the map. So, the person on the other end thinks, well, he's rude. Can answer my call.
I really like my phone. It's a great alarm clock.
Well, it's a great alarm clock. Yeah, that works for me. Yeah, I got about 3 or 4 alarm clocks that get me up at, 3 in the morning. Really? So, yeah, I've got backup. I've got redundancy all over the place. So.
Oh my God! I have a body clock. After a month of this, I wake up
I was going to say, yeah, I
4:25.
yeah.
But, and I hear my music, and
yeah, there you go. So, yeah, that's how it is. So, well, on this day in history, 2002, Suzanne Lori Parks became the first African American woman to win a Pulitzer Prize for drama for her play Top Dog Underdog. So, never heard of the play, never heard of her. So, good for her.
No, I did not either. Neither. No, can't say I have.
Okay, 2005 on this date, world leaders joined pilgrims and prelates, no less.
Wow.
In St. Peter's Square for the funeral of Pope John Paul II.
A remarkable man. I mean, when you talk about people that literally changed the world, this guy
he was one of them.
Changed the world.
He was one of them, yeah.
They will write about him for 1,000 years. It was an amazing thing because he was elected Pope by the Second Papal Conclave in 1978. An absolute surprise to everyone when he came to the balcony. He was elected in August because he succeeded Pope Paul VI, died 33 days after becoming Pope. And there was a lot of thought about conspiracy on that situation.
There was, yeah. Everybody.
But communist rule was at its height, and he was from Poland. He worked effortlessly to get along with Judaism and the Islamic religion, Eastern Orthodox Church, which had the schism, several 1,000 years ago, that between the conservative Catholics of the North. But he was a remarkable guy, visited 129 countries, became famous because every time he got off his plane, he would kneel down and kiss the ground.
Yep.
As a blessing to wherever he visited. So he beautified 1,340 people, the most of any pope.
Yep.
And canonized 483 people, and elevated more people to sainthood than anybody. So he was a busy guy. He was like a Trump in the Vatican. He was working all the time. He was young, 27 years as a pope, and the only reason I make mention of this is because, it's an amazing story in that he was outside of the Italian popish sort of standard of the time for the last 1,000 years, right, with the church. And John Paul was the first non-Italian pope since Dutch Pope Adrian VI in 1522.
Yeah.
So go figure, right?
There he is.
Anyway, he changed the world because he worked with the unions in Poland and helped them challenge the communist regime there. And he took down the military dictatorship in Poland with everyone. And boy, I'll tell you, like I said, if you could pick 10 guys, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, John Paul II would be in that list of top 10 that changed the world in the 20th century.
All right. 2009 on this date, Somali pirates hijacked the U.S.-flagged Maersk, Alabama. The crew retook the cargo ship, and Navy sharpshooters killed 2 pirates holding the ship's American captain. So, hey, about time to fight back on the Somali pirates. You don't hear much about them anymore now that we've kind of armed ships and everything, and they're taking their life in their hands coming out to these ships, but used to be, don't fire unless you're fired upon. And I think they changed that a little bit because people are tired of losing their ships and the money.
Yeah, and the U.S. has an escort squadron in the Pacific Ocean, heavy cruiser and 12 destroyers. So they see any ships coming. They see those long boats coming off the coast of Africa. They turn them back or sink them. So they sort of into that.
All right, on this date in 2011, congressional and White House negotiators struck a last-minute budget deal ahead of a midnight deadline, averting a federal shutdown and cutting billions in spending.
Well, another interesting aspect of this, of course, is that this issue of shutting down the government, the first one in the history of the country is 1980 during the end of the Carter administration before Reagan took over. So Carter was the first president to shut it down. Yeah. And then of course Reagan did it 3 times, and then
everybody did it.
And Bush did it, and Clinton did it, and Obama did it in 2013. So come on, guys, let's have some unison here.
Yeah.
And then of course Trump did it twice or in 2018 December. So there you go.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, birthdays today. Sonia Henney. I was in love with Sonia Henney. Maybe you were too, Shane. I don't know, man. Oh man. She was a Norwegian-born figure skater, Olympic gold medalist, and went on to do movies in the United States and whatever. And she was a beautiful woman and very, and very likable. Her accent, was kind of got to you. So, but
everything about that woman was sexy.
It was. She was the whole package. I would have to tell you.
I have to agree.
Yeah. Well, the other one, the other actress that was pretty big at the time, Mary Pickford, married to Clark Gable. She married Clark Gable or no?
Pickford. I mean, not Pickford. What's his name? The famous family.
Yeah.
Bartholomew? No, not Bartholomew.
No.
Can't remember.
Okay. Anyway, Mary Pickford, I don't remember who she married, but...
But they started, there's a studio together, if you remember.
They did, yeah. Yeah, United Artists, I think.
United Artists, baby, yeah.
Yeah, Mary Pickford, born on this date in 1892, died at 87 in 1979. So... And Carmen McRae was an American jazz vocalist and pianist at the time. I think he had his own TV show at one time, or was featured on maybe Lawrence Welk or some of those shows. But born on this date in 1920. And Michael Bennett, the American dancer, choreographer, and stage director, was also born on this date. So all kinds of fun things happening, huh, Shane?
Well, and the great thing about doing this every day is twofold. Something, it's important. You learn something every day. But more is that diversity of talent in all the areas of arts and science and politics. And, the diversity of your country is so profound. And it's such a great opportunity to share it with everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really something to be proud of.
Yeah. We're not going to have a break at 40, Shane, so we're going to keep going. So,
I wasn't planning for that.
Well, I'm sorry. Too
so
late.
Now I have to drink my coffee after that.
Too late now. Well, in
Chronicle, baby.
In local news, Montana exports more than $1 billion in agricultural products annually, helping generate revenue of about $68 billion for Gallatin Valley farmers. Or Gallatin County farmers, I should say, because agriculture drives the state's economy. The Trump administration's foreign policy, which has left some farmers struggling, is worrying politicians and industry officials. And farmers' concerns began last year when the U.S. imposed billions of dollars worth of tariffs on Chinese imports, citing national security issues and unfair trade practices. China immediately responded with tariffs on U.S. goods. So at the same time, the Trump administration imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, prompting several countries to place regulatory tariffs on a wide range of U.S. agricultural products, negatively impacting farmers in Montana and Gallatin County. So, there's these tariffs are going to have there's going to be some pain in there, but as we've said before, which do you want? Do you want an imbalance of trade where their stuff comes in and there's no protection for American farmers and ranchers or workers, or do you put tariffs on and they put them back on you until somebody wakes up and realizes the tariffs are bad? And why don't we just import our stuff without penalty?
And the remarkable thing, which we've talked for the last 3 years, is that your president sees the big picture, and the trade routes of the world are changing. I was absolutely amazed at all these Democrat people running for president talking about joining the TPA. Wow, that was incredible. And the reason I say this, folks, is because everyone wants free trade, but it's got to be fair and it's got to be balanced. It can't be one-sided trade. And right now, at this point, for the next 100 years, you want the trade routes coming to you because you're the best buyer in the world. And as Tom has said, and you've heard him say this many times, we should actually charge people to be able to come here and sell to North America and to our countries because we're the best. Between Canada and the United States, we consume 30% of the world's products.
I was going to say there should be some kind of a fee to access the most affluent customers on Earth, So,
exactly.
But anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure tariffs are the answer, but at least they're moving. And as Greg Gianforti told us the other day when he was in China, he felt that talks were in the work, and we may have some things to talk about in the coming weeks. So let's hope that he is accurate on that, and we'll just see.
We'll just see. That's what your president likes to say. We'll see what happens.
Yep, we definitely will. So, oh gosh, I don't know, Bo. A lot happening though. Well, once again, affordable housing raises its ugly head in.
You love the story. It's an ongoing story.
I do. I just love affordable housing. I mean, we can talk about it all day long, and it just never gets old, does it? Well, yeah, it does get old. It gets very old. But anyway,
we see it here, so it's it's the same.
Well, I would imagine that you do, yeah. Well, as Bozeman becomes a more and more expensive place to live, and it certainly is not a cheap place to live by any stretch of the imagination. The city's going to set aside $240,000 for affordable housing. The homes will be sold at a price affordable to someone who makes 70% of the area's median income. To make sure the houses remain affordable past the first sale, each will be deed restricted and held in a land trust. So you're not going to own your home.
What a great idea.
You're going to pay a couple $100,000. You're going to pay 70% of the price, but you get no resale value when you leave, and don't expect the realtors to be knocking down your door to sell your home.
Hand it to government to give you the opportunity to create equity in your life, and then they say no.
Yeah.
I mean, as we said, there's 3 ways to create equity. You save money, you invest it in the market, or you buy real estate.
That's pretty much it.
Art is another way, but that's a totally different story, right? But yeah. Sad, isn't it? Here, come buy this home. Oh, you're not buying it. You're mortgaging it? No, you're paying for the mortgage and you're leasing it?
Yeah.
Well,
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Wow.
It's
can you imagine a house builder having that story?
I know. It's rent, but no buy.
Yeah, that's right. When you decide to sell, I get it.
Yeah. Well, today the commissioners will consider, I guess tonight I should say, the commissioners will consider whether to offer the project money out of the city's Workforce Housing Fund. HRD President and CEO Heather Grenier said the development will come in 2 stages, according to a letter she submitted to the city. But before nonprofit leaders finalize plans with a builder, they need to know whether they'll get Bozeman's help. And so, as we mentioned, the house will be sold at 70% of the area's median price income. And so 70% of $350,000. That's still going to price an awful lot of people out of the market. And as we've always said, how do you decide who gets the house? How poor do you have to be? You have to be just poor enough to make the payments, I guess,
and
on something you don't own.
That's right, and have all the liability, of course.
Of course, yeah. You'll need all the maintenance and everything will be on you. Of course, won't be on the city. Come on, that wouldn't work.
Yeah, right. Mow the lawn.
So I don't know. The city collects roughly $300,000 in property taxes a year for the fund. And recently, more money has gone in that pool because of Bozeman's affordable housing mandate, which calls on developers to either price a fraction of a new subdivision homes as affordable or pay into the fund. So they're blackmailing the builders as well. And, they're going to force this down your throat whether you like it or not. And as we all know, anytime you mess with the ecosystem of the economy, you are going to get yourself in trouble. You don't throw oil in the ocean hoping to make it easier to surf. You know,
very good, Tom. That was a very good line.
you
I
know,
like that.
yeah.
Well, our market here is top. Probably about a year ago. There's property, but there's no buyers, and of course, our government, the NDP, socialist government, and Green Party,
Yeah.
in the province of BC, have seen to this by taxing people who come here to buy, and but the problem is the prices aren't dropping yet, because people don't need to sell, but they still want to sell at exorbitant prices. But we'll see what happens in the next year or so, because it'll be a better time, and maybe in a year for you, come to Canada with your 30% benefit and buy property.
Buy property in Canada, absolutely. Well, that's affordable housing right there.
Yeah, well, if the new Green Deal comes in, you'll need an escape pod, right?
Well, that's for sure. Well, first of all the houses now, I'm sure the city commission is going to look at the new Green Deal and say everybody that wants to do a subdivision's got to adhere to the new Green Deal. They got to, they got to have all this extra stuff tied to it that's only going to increase the price of the property.
And add 50 to 100 grand for the solar paneling.
Well, yeah, whatever. Yeah, they got that in California, right? All new homes have to have solar panels on them and whatever. So I don't know. And those are obsolete in 4 years, probably?
Yeah, they will be, because
that's what I mean. There's no need to even go there.
20 years from now, people will look back and go, how did the government spend all those billions of dollars on these solar farms and everything?
Yeah. Yeah, what about Solyndra? Let's get some of those guys back to work.
$500 million lesson there.
Yeah, that's it. Well, the city's ready to pack up half that, so, half of 10% of it anyways.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my math is fuzzy this morning, so I'm going to take a break, have a cup of coffee, and see you back here again in 2 minutes. 6 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Monday, April 8, 2019, 41 degrees outside. Tommy Galoff, your morning mayor in the house. You're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox, and Shane Tobin, half man, half amazing in Vancouver. And we got a caller waiting patiently on the line, Shane. So let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you are on the Soapbox. What's up?
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Shane. This is Steve.
Hey, Steve.
So you're talking about the affordable housing, and God knows this subject drives me crazy, too.
Yes, sir.
So, aren't you glad you're paying into it?
In this beautiful country that we call America, we have this incredible thing. I work at McDonald's. I can't afford to live. I personally decide I need more money. I go find a better paying job. I improve my life skills, my education, et cetera, and I move forward so that I can afford to buy that house. So when the city turns around and says, oh, you only got to pay 70% of the median price. However, if you start to make more money and you can afford this home, you're out. What does that do? It just completely incentivizes people to stay in a lower class.
Yeah, of course it does.
I can't wrap my mind around this concept. America is free. You, as an individual, have the ability to go improve your life so you can afford that home. Oh, wait, but the government's going to interfere, and we would much prefer you to stay in a lower class. So don't get that better job. Don't get the better education. Just stay here. Oh, by the way, you don't own the property.
Yeah, that's the best part.
And then even worse, me personally, I've rented cars before. When I don't own the car, I have a bit of a tendency to be a little rougher and care less about the thing because I don't own it. It's going back to somebody else. Who cares?
You're human. Right, I got it.
Yeah, so if I'm living in a house and I don't have to pay for it and, I don't even own it, I'm going to let that thing fall to pieces around me. So there's multiple negative incentives surrounding this whole affordable housing thing. And I hardly ever hear the city bring up that side of that aspect. Just, we have to help these poor people that can't afford a house. It's beyond me, gentlemen. I simply can't wrap my mind around it, and it incentivizes me as a go-getter to get the heck out of here. I don't want to pay taxes for these people.
Yeah. Well, the part you're missing, Steve, is that we've got to have housing for firemen and teachers and nurses. And, oh, my God, the whole infrastructure of Bozeman will collapse if we don't have housing for these people. And we've just got to make it happen somehow. Steve, you inconsiderate boob.
Yeah, I know it. I know it. Here's an idea, though. We need places for the firemen. I love the firemen. I think they're absolutely critical. I'd give money to donate to a barracks for the firemen, a place that they can all be, all have a bed to sleep on, a kitchen to cook in. And guess what? That barracks would be right next to the fire station. So if they were needed, they're right there.
There you go. Hey.
Goodness gracious. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I hope you have a wonderful morning.
All right. So far, not good.
Yeah, well, two things you got to worry about. Is there a notable list of who gets to buy these social housing?
Well,
first?
that's what I mean. Who's vetted? Is it how many?
Or is it a lottery system?
Is it one person on low income that gets to buy this house, or is it somebody else with a higher income but they've got 14 kids?
Or is it something that so you get the house?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, someone who knows someone, and they put in a good word for you. Or what's the resume for this thing? I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. Let's see. Notice they don't lower their fees either. That's the other thing that that's from our text line at 478-8298. From our text line, what happened to Clint? Well, I don't know. Maybe Clint is mad at us for some reason. I haven't heard from Clint in a while. I heard him on Montana Talks the other day with Aaron Flint, but I don't know. I don't know where Clint has disappeared to. So we certainly miss him. So maybe he'll give us a shout here. Let's take some more phone calls. 522 Talk is the number. Caller, you are on the air. What's going on?
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good.
Are you guys on the air?
We are, but we're not streaming or we're not on the cell phone. Again, it's Monday, of course, That's how it goes.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys know the fastest growing class of millionaires in the United States right now is teachers, firemen, and police officers?
Okay. Well, because they live in those areas where you gotta pay somebody in San Francisco that kind of money, or they're not going to be able to live there. So,
well, and I don't think that's why. It's the pensions and the retirement, the health care. When you add it all
that too,
up,
you add it all up, yeah.
But they are the fastest growing. So it's funny they're getting everybody out here to root for them to become the fastest growing class of billionaires.
All right. Well, hell, hopefully they'll leave me in their will. Got to go.
Later.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call. All right. All right, we got a duck hatter, pay some bills and everything. Gosh, we got through the first hour without too much problem, other than not streaming, not on the phone, not anywhere else. But, hey, we are recording the show, so if you're not getting it on your streaming device, we will be on, you can get it through our website or the phone website. You can listen to us just a little later in the morning. So we'll be back with more, and it won't be very long either, because I think we've only got Fox News at the top of the hour. 3 minutes after 7 o'clock in the morning. It is Monday, April 8, 2019, 40 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Shane and Tom on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor in the house, and we're having a high old time here this morning with leaving the mics open and everything else. So what else is new? Why should today be any different than any ordinary day, huh? Come on.
A magic celebration.
That's right. We are on it. Well, believe it or not, let's see. We were talking about affordable housing before, and from our text line, 478-8298. Where is the greedy landlords and real estate agents responsible in affordable housing? Where are they, Shane? Where are these guys?
Well, yeah, it's a strange, it's an interesting concept, because one of the things that I think that our city's proven is that when they build these massive developments, they have to set aside, affordable housing, in some of them.
Yeah.
And, and oh, by the way, people actually get to buy them.
Yeah. Well, that too. Yeah. Don't they, don't they have what am I trying to say? would the if somebody says I live in the Wild Winds subdivision, okay?
Right.
Yeah, just throw a name out there that we don't have around here. At least I don't think we have a Wild Wind. I don't know. Maybe we do. Yeah. Golden Eagle. Or
well, let's say if they do, you hope it's not trademarked.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Yeah. Well, if you live in the KMMS housing project,
Okay,
I know there's not one of those, or the housing development or subdivision, whatever you want to call it. Is there a certain price point to live in that subdivision? It would seem there would be.
Well, it is, but the way that our system works is it's an established price based upon other costs or a cost the city would have to build the same thing. So, if we have a $2 billion pool of money that sits there supposedly to build these things, and they keep adding to it, talking about they're going to do it. But that, aside from that,
is this supposed to be for affordable housing?
Yeah, they talk about the politicians here keep adding to it, and we're going to build more, but they don't seem to. Anyway, that's beside the point. So yes, they establish a price, and then it is sold, and it is sold on a prorated list of people that have required housing or asked for it for over years. You have to wait at least 3 years to get supported housing in BC.
So you may be priced out of the market if you get a good job.
That's right. By the time it's available, exactly.
I don't know. Let's see. Gotta love computers. Thanks for the reply. I let somebody know that for whatever reason we're not streaming, we're not cell phoning again. So I don't know, man. This has been a mess.
You're halfway home, buddy.
Yeah, I know. The second week. I thought Friday things looked really good. We had everything but Town Square email, and now we're back on the hotspot again to even be on the air. So no internet, no nothing. So
that's right.
I don't know. It's I don't know what these people are thinking. Or, maybe the time has come to update security, update the systems, and maybe spend some money. It's a big company. Come on. Do your thing. Well, we should do, as we usually do in the 7 o'clock hour, we do the 5 things you need to know. And, of course, the big news over the weekend, Kirstjen Nielson either resigned or got kicked out, one of the two. Yeah, as Homeland Director of the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary. She has resigned. About an hour later, Nielson confirmed the news in a tweet of her own, saying she submitted her resignation to Trump on Sunday afternoon and felt it was the honor of a lifetime to serve with the brave men and women of the department. In a separate tweet, Trump said Kevin McAllen, the current commissioner of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, will serve as acting DHS secretary, and Nielsen took the role in 2017 and has become the public face of the Trump administration immigration policies, including that of detaining undocumented migrant children. And we can't talk about undocumented migrant children without giving the 3 reasons why the children are separated from their parents, because I think a lot of people don't know why they're separated from their parents. Rule number 1, we have to make sure that the person accompanying the kid is the actual parent or guardian or legal person, and not a trafficker.
Yeah, right.
Not just somebody dragging the kid across the border to sell him into slavery. Second, we got to make sure that the child is not being abused by the parent or guardian or whoever's accompanying the child. And third, we have to make sure that the person accompanying the child isn't wanted for a crime, either in America or their own country, that they're not a sleaze bag, coming into the country. They're not MS-13 or who knows what. So it takes time to do that. And with this started, by the way, in the Obama administration. We had a 20-day period. But, of course, during the Obama administration, they could handle that in 20 days because they didn't have massive caravans coming to the border.
Right.
So,
Well, my take on this, to be honest with you, from what I've read, because I was really surprised when I learned about it over the weekend, it appears that, your president wants someone tougher, but more importantly, he wants ICE redirected because there's over 600,000 people, illegal immigrants, in your country that have gone through the 2-year process and lost in court. Less than 5% were approved to stay, and they're still in your country. And, it appears that the feeling of your administration is one way to curb these people coming up is to go out, find these people, get a hold of them, and send them back to their countries because they've been ordered to leave the country and have not reported. Now, it's an interesting thing because the one thing that turned down the number of people coming to your country during the Obama administration, when he turned the ICE onto this and had them go out and find the people that had lost their case, the number dropped significant because it was a deterrent, meaning, the people found that if less than 5% of you are going to be able to stay, you're going to be deported. They stop coming. So I think that's one of the big things. So I'm curious to see how this goes. We like to plan ahead, don't we, Tom?
Yes, we do. The way, yes, we do.
Guess who was with your president down at the border this weekend on Friday? That great general we mentioned. That great general we mentioned that runs the Army Corps of Engineers. Let us try is their motto, and they are moving like, rabbits along that border with building wall. Man, It's great and cheaper.
Well, also we were talking about affordable housing from our text line 478-8298. Look at all those public housing buildings back east. This is how people who don't have any skin in the game treat them. And so we are getting some texts of people asking if we're on the air or not, and I'm trying to answer those as quickly as we can. So we'll see if they can get us back up and running on something, streaming or whatever. We are recording the show, so it will be up on our podcast section of the website, and you should be able to listen to it there. So we certainly hope that works. I think it works there as far as I know. The other thing I should remind you is that we're now at 619 downloads of our shows. So if you're missing some of our shows, or forgot about one, or you were slip in or whatever, you can check them all out at KMMSAM.com. Just click on Tom and Shane's podcast, and they're all right there, and you can download them. You can listen to them right there. You can do whatever, put them up and listen to them while you work, or just sit back and enjoy life, or watch.
And it's a great thing because it took us 5 months to hit 500.
Yeah.
And now we're going to get to 1,000 here before summer. This is fabulous.
No, I think we will. Yeah, we've had 119 episodes, so we're getting about 6 or 7 downloads per episode. So not bad.
Yes,
not bad. So, and we're over 1,000, well over 1,000 likes on our Facebook page. Want to thank everybody for that. But let's keep them coming. If you have a Facebook page, or if you don't have a Facebook page, the chances are very probable that you know someone that does. So ask them to like KMMS. They don't have to go over there ever again. Just go over and like the page and disappear back into the woodwork. But there are some great things over there on our page. So you certainly may want to go get over there. Coming up at 8 o'clock, we're going to be talking with Steve White, badbills.com, and the Montana Senate President, Scott Sales. So we'll be talking to them about what's going on in a legislature in Helena. And also, Montana prison compound locked down over security issue. That's on our KMMS AM page, our Facebook page, I should say. And what else is over there? Let's see. Bozeman man arrested for deliberate homicide in Thursday shooting. That's gone over there. And we also have a popular Bozeman restaurant set for a major facelift. So you'll want to check that out, which restaurant that might be. And also, feds, a man who discussed U.S. attack arrested at a gun range here in Montana. So that's at our Facebook page. Also, the UM poll finds majority of Montana support legalizing marijuana is at our Facebook page as well. So a lot of stories over there, a lot of good information. So like our Facebook page, or as I say, if you don't have a Facebook page, you know someone that does. So let's get them to like it also. Let's see. Also on the 5 things you need to know. Well, Mulvaney, he's says Democrats will never get to see Trump's tax returns. And, you know, as I said before, which returns do you want to see, Shane?
Yeah, exactly.
Which returns do you want to see?
Yeah.
You know, do you
well,
want
I want to see Uncle Bernie's tax returns. I want to see how he ended up with 3 houses since he ran for president last time. Come on. Let's get
yeah.
Give it up, baby. Give it up. Let's go.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, you know, but in the case of Trump, you know, when I say which tax returns do you want to see? Well, when the president becomes a candidate for president, in order to be on the ballot of all the states, you have to submit your sources of income to the Senate Finance Committee and the Election Commission. And Trump, his first year first year running was 104 pages, and then it went down to 98. So he lost some income along the way. So he lost about 8 pages of income. So there you are, and that should tell you something. But you know, when I say which tax returns do you want to see, he has a personal tax return, and he has corporate tax returns for his businesses. So, you know, if you want to see tax returns for 104 sources of income, be my guest. You know?
Well, and by the way, let's just mention this because this is sort of important. You know, after he got elected and before he became president, when he was setting up the trust and everything that he set up for his kids to take over control of his company and run it,
Mm-hmm.
He personally sold his personal holdings in the market.
Yeah. So,
which was about $750 million. So he has shown good faith in that alone, because he's lost like $300 million having done that, not kept it with the success of the market he's created. Mm-hmm. So, you know, all they're going to find is stuff that's positive. And, you know, this is not the guy doesn't have any reason not to be honest. He doesn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think what they're looking for, and they're not going to find it in a personal tax return. They're looking for, you know, trips to, what'd you deduct going to Russia, or, you know, what Russian people did you entertain, or things like that. And, you know, you got to say, if there's a conflict of interest, being president of the United States, and as I've said many times, I don't think the president of the United States gets a Motel 6 audit. You know, I think it's a Four Seasons audit, quite honestly.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the other positive, too, is that, as we've discussed, when you become president, you have to pay for your own personal expenses in the White House, which also includes, because you act as head of state, you know, if you have a big state dinner. So, you know, have somebody from a country and you invite all the politicians and people to the White House, and you have 200, 300, 400 people for a state dinner, you have to pay for that. So, you know, the other thing people would find out is because he's the type of person that he is and the money he has, he's had several state dinners because he's got the money to pay for them. And, you know, all these things are so positive about him. I think he's happy to do it, to be honest with you.
All right. Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you're on the Morning Soapbox. What's up?
Hey, this is Aaron again. I have to bring something to you guys that nobody's talking about, but when you file a tax return, you don't itemize your travel expenses such that, like, I went to Russia, I went to Montana. It's one lump sum for travel, one lump sum for this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, so if you're audited, you have the receipts for that to show what you did and where you went.
Right. So the information that they're requesting, and here's where the problem lies. They're trying to get the Trump to turn over the personal information, the receipt. Because Trump has the receipts. The IRS doesn't have the receipts. All they have is the return.
Right.
The return isn't going to have any of that. It's going to have numbers in a box.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So there's nothing there. The where it all came from is in a shoebox in Trump's basement somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, that's
However
a
he
big
keeps it.
shoebox.
Well, right, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Oh, yeah. No, if you,
So-
even if you want a tax return as you're talking about with just numbers in a box, the thing's going to be 6 feet tall.
Right. Well, and the bottom line is that all of this does, because everybody up there in Washington, D.C. has the same kind of tax return that Trump has, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they know damn good and well that if they look at their tax return, it's not going to divulge any specific information. All it is numbers and boxes.
And if it's true that he is being audited, then they are looking at those receipts. And I would adhere to the IRS that they're going to find stuff that nobody else is going to find because they're the IRS. I mean,
well, right, but those receipts aren't obtainable by the chairman of any committee. Only the return.
That's correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Trump doesn't have to turn over the receipt.
No, he doesn't.
So essentially what this does is proves that this stuff is but a witch hunt. They're harassing the guy.
Yeah.
It's harassment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and as I said, his personal tax return isn't going to show anything except just income and his personal deductions and things like that. And it may prove he's a billionaire. It may not. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I think he's doing a better job than the last three presidents we've had. So
I would agree with that. Yeah.
All right.
Hey, thanks for the call.
And let us remember, it didn't help Romney. Romney released all this information, and Senator Reid from Nevada sat in the well of the Senate and lied about him and accused him of not paying taxes.
Yeah. So.
And when he was asked about lying about it, he said, "Yeah, I lied, but we won."
Well, of course. Why not? All right, we got to take a quick break here. We've got, no Babel. Babel's oranged out. So you're not gonna be subjected to Babel, but we will be back in exactly 59.77 seconds. So count off with me: 59, 58. 23 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. It's Monday, April 7th, 2019, 40 degrees outside. Tom Eagle off your morning mayor in the house. Shaman Dobbin, half man, half amazing, online in Vancouver, British Columbia. And you're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Coming up at 8 o'clock this morning, Scott Sales, the Montana Senate President, will join us along with Steve White, badbills.com. And we're getting down to the wire on the legislature, so we've got to chat about that a little bit. So we'll see how that plays out. From our text line, Fed disclosure forms don't list debt and who it's owed to. People who fight releasing taxes that are promised they would have something to hide. And also from our text line, honest people are transparent, don't hide stuff. Okay, so there you are. And I would say it's not hidden. The IRS is looking all over it. So
exactly. It may not be hidden in what they provide to the Election Commission, but it's not. It's well aware. The IRS is well aware of who they owe money to.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, and an audit could take some time because of the number of companies involved and all of the stuff going on. So, as I say, he didn't say he would release his tax returns no matter what. He said he would release them as soon as the audit was completed. And then the IRS is either going to bring charges against him or they won't.
That's right.
So, all right, let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you are on the air. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Good. Now, from what I understand, Donald Trump is not taking a salary, correct?
He's not taking his salary. Yeah, he donates it to one of the government agencies.
Okay, so then you're saying he pays for all these state dinners out of his own pocket, which is another good thing. Then who pays for that airplane that Nancy Pelosi flies back and forth to California? Or does she
You
still
do.
that?
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Well, you also pay for him to fly to Mar-a-Lago, too.
No, wait a second.
Yeah, you do. He has travel, but it's nowhere near enough to cover what he does.
Yeah,
That's true, but if it's considered a political trip, he has to. The party, the RNC, has to pay the cost.
Oh, nice. Well, then, how come she doesn't have to pay for it? She's not the president.
Who, Pelosi?
Yeah.
Well, as Speaker of the House, they're assigned an Air Force. She's assigned an Air Force plane.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Well, they only have 25 Gulfstream 5s, to dandy around everyone.
Well, you're just upset that there's not a Max 537.
Yeah, that's right.
No, on that note, it's a 737 Max 8.
You're right. Yeah, there you go.
Well, wait, why don't you give her one of those? Come on. They got a
Yeah, that's right.
They've got a ton of them sitting at the warehouse right now.
Yeah.
We could get her one cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for the call.
Bye.
Take it easy. All right, from our text line, 478-8298, no babble and no kiddabaloo. I can finally turn my radio back on with confidence. Yeah. Well, there's certainly no kiddabaloo, at least for another year, but I don't know about babble. As soon as we get everything fixed, babble will probably be back, but I don't know. Let's hope not, anyway.
Well, judging from what I read about over the weekend, Kiddabaloo had a great show.
Yeah, they went pretty well from what I understand. So we hope everybody had a good time out there, even if they. Well, when we start those, the 1st of March.
Yeah, I know.
Or middle of February, sometime in there. I don't remember when.
I don't think the outdoor carnival did well.
No, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, because it was raining and kind of nasty. So I don't know how that went, but yeah. Anyway, Trump's tax returns are always going to be an issue. But as as the caller pointed out, unless they get all the receipts and everything else, and who's going to go through that, and at what cost to the taxpayers is that investigation? We already had Mueller, with $25 million go through all these people and 90. I don't know. I got the list. What did we go through? We went through 19 lawyers, 40 FBI agents, 2,800 subpoenas, 500 search warrants, 230 orders for communication records, 50 orders authorizing the use of PIN registers, and 13 requests to foreign government for evidence. Interviewed 500 witnesses and $25 million of your tax money down the drain. How many school lunches is that? How many Head Start kids is that? That's what the liberals always pull out. Oh, you're wasting money. Oh, that should go to the kids or our vets or somebody.
Yeah. Well, I just love to see your president debate Biden, over this issue, because all he has to do is look at him and go, well, what about the $1 billion your son got from China and the $15 million he got from Ukrainian oil barons in the last month of your vice presidential position? I mean, you flew out you flew with your son to two places and came home with $1.15 billion. I mean, that's better than the Clintons did.
Yeah, well, there you are. All right, we got to take a break. Bottom of the hour here. We've got Montana. No, we don't. Well, no, we don't have Montana State News. We'll have a minute of Fox News and a couple other short things, and we'll be right back. So you're getting your money's worth this morning. You're not being commercial to death, that's for sure. All right. Hey, this is the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. We're having a little technical snafus as usual here. Of course, we're not streaming on the phone. We're not streaming over the internet, but you can get our shows. We are recording the show, and that's working. So we'll have that up for you later on this morning, and we'll be back right after the whatever news there is. 27 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Monday, April 8, 2019, 41 degrees outside. You're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking us along with you. If you're in your car, or you have to have a radio, I guess, this morning. Or once again, it's another manic Monday with nothing working, so we're a little clamped this morning. So, from our text line, we're talking about Trump's tax returns. And from our text line, 478-8298, those idiots obviously do not do basic math, so why would anyone believe anything they would have to say about Trump's IRS audit? So, I don't know. If you got all that, thank you. Government should be transparent regardless of party affiliation. All of them. Show us your taxes as promised, no lies. Let's see. Shane stated that a president pays for state dinners. It took 2 seconds Google search to show that that is not true at all. It is paid for by the government. If you believe Trump is under audit from the IRS, I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. No audit takes 4 years. Well, it hasn't been 4 years yet, but I don't know how long it does take. If a rich Democratic president of the United States refused to release returns, Shade would be saying, what is he hiding? Prove you are honest, President Trump. Prove you're honest, President Trump, I should say.
Okay, with regards to the state dinner, yes, the government pays for providing the services in the White House for a state dinner, but the president pays for the food and the wine. It's a personal expense. It's considered a personal expense.
Okay. We'll let the listeners determine that for themselves.
All right.
I think the whole bill's covered, but that's just me.
Okay.
Because I don't believe presidents pay for anything.
Okay.
All right. Back to the 5 things you need to know. Beto O'Rourke calls Benjamin Netanyahu a racist. A racist before the Israeli election. Wow.
Yeah, it's sort of a sad reality because of what he announced this weekend, that he's going, if elected, that he's going to annex more West Bank settlements because there have been an argument. But, this isn't a stupid guy. I mean, he's one of the most remarkable prime ministers of Israel. He joined the Israeli Defense Forces in 1967 because of the Six-Day War. Yeah. He became, this is great, the Sayeret Matkal Special Forces Unit. This guy's a hero. He, as a Special Forces of the Israel Defense Forces, Operation Inferno, he participated in 68 Operation Gift, 68 Operation Isotope 72. I mean, this guy was behind the lines in the Yom Kippur War, 73, the Suez Canal. He achieved the rank of captain and was discharged. Then he came to the United States and went to MIT and got a degree in Bachelor of Science. So, he's been in office since 2009. He's grown the Israeli economy threefold and developed technologies that in water and gasification that everyone in the world's buying from him. So, he's advanced the Israeli state probably as hard as anyone else, and he's an amazing individual for his country. I mean, he's a great leader. And, of course, he's in trouble for taking champagne and cigars from a friend of his.
Yeah, so we'll see how that what happens in court.
Yeah.
Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you are on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Hey, guys, it's Mayor.
Hey, Mayor.
Say the texter that said, it shouldn't take 2 years or whatever for an audit has never been through an audit. I've been through 4 of them, and it took 2 years, and I work at a flower shop, for crying out loud.
Wow.
And I had 2 very, very, very small businesses, and they audited. I mean, they looked through everything. It's a slow slog, and it's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, and then in the process of doing that, my son passed away, and 4 days later, I got another audit, and I called them and told them what happened. It was like, I think they gave me 10 days as a grace period. So,
wow.
Yeah, let me tell you something about the IRS. If I could say it on the air,
yeah.
I mean, those people, they leave nothing. I mean, it's probably it's a nightmare. And for people to say, oh, it shouldn't take this long and blah, 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 they've never been through one. They don't know what it takes. And not only the getting all the paperwork together, but the emotional. I mean, what are they going to find? What did I not, what did I do? Did I do this wrong? Did I do that wrong? You've got all this stuff running through your head.
Yeah.
And for 2 years. And I think literally took 10 years off my life. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah. No, I was audited 3 times, I think, in the first 10 years I was here. And I feel your pain. And I think the only reason I was spared any more of them was that they went after the IRS for something at that time. I forget what it was. It was back in the late 90s, early 2000. I think they were I don't know, they were persecuting some people too much or something. So I never heard from him again. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, mine was during the Obama era, and I was involved with the Tea Party. I believe I was targeted. And
you probably were.
Yeah. So it's not a fun thing to go through by any stretch of the imagination. And I had no lawyer and I had no accountant.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't afford to pay them.
Yeah.
What they wanted. So I did it by myself. And the thing of it is we started out, they said I owed them $42,000, and by the end of it, they owed me $4,000. So you can do it on your own, and you can win, but it does take its toll emotionally. There's no question about it.
Yeah, you don't know what you're facing: a fine, jail time.
Taking your house.
Taking your house, your wages. They got a lot of. They got a lot of power.
It's a Gestapo. It really.
Oh, it is. Yeah,
really, truly is.
They're bad folks.
Yeah, for the United States of America, supposedly the land of the free. When it comes to the IRS, not so much.
Yeah.
It really. So people that sit there and go blah 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 about it have never been through one and don't know what the heck they're talking about until the IRS comes knocking on your door, and then we'll have a different conversation.
That's right. 60 Minutes will be right behind them.
So, with Trump, he's got lawyers and, accountants and people like that to do that work for him. Mm-hmm. But for his businesses, the magnitude, 2 years for me, I work part-time at a flower shop. They're crying out loud. I can't even imagine.
I was going to say, when you got 104 sources or 104 pages of sources of income, and each one of them probably has its own return, you're probably looking at 6 or 8 feet of returns to go through. Yeah, just the returns, then, not the receipts, not the proof, not the audit. So I could see where it would easily take 4 or 5 years to go through an audit.
Oh, I could see where. I had two, like I said, extremely small businesses that, didn't bring that much income in, and it took 2 years for that. So, I can't even imagine with his sources. It could take decades, really. Yeah. And,
we've never had a president that had an outside business, other than Kennedy, but Kennedy never released his tax returns either. He's the only one that hasn't in recent memory.
Well, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that they have to.
No, it's strictly.
We didn't have tax returns back then when they wrote it.
That's true.
But there's they have to just there's certain criteria to be the president in the Constitution, and showing your tax return is definitely not one of them.
There you are.
That's just something somebody started, and it's been every year. But who cares? I don't care how much money he makes or doesn't make. I care what he does for the country and for me.
Yeah, that's what we all care about, I think. So.
Yeah, I don't sit there and wonder, I don't have a grudge match like some people that call on the radio station about how much money other people make. I don't I don't lose sleep over that. I just figure out how much money can I make.
Right.
And, improve my life.
What to do with it, yeah.
Yeah. And how not to get caught with too much of it.
There you go.
Okay.
Thanks for the call.
Okay, guys, thanks.
Appreciate it. All right. Let's see. We were talking about tax returns. Let's see, from our text line. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Well, the doctor told me not to lift anything heavy. You're talking about tax returns. Oh, never mind. Heavy rain right now. Ask your texters to state the law that says the president has to show his taxes. And from our text line, honest people don't hide their taxes. Something fishy with Trump. Donations to Democrats, to Planned Parenthood. What is he afraid of? Well... Apparently, I don't know. Those donations obviously would not be illegal. So, so there you are. And you can't dump a whole bunch of money on charities and other stuff. You're limited by how much you can give to charities based on the amount of income that you have. That's called the alternative minimum tax. And you'll pay the higher of the two taxes if you give too much money to charities or, other groups or whatever. So. Otherwise, you can't just dump a whole bunch of money on charities to avoid taxes. So there you are. Yeah. So, yeah, that pretty well cleans up our text line for the moment. Coming up at the 8 o'clock hour, Scott Sales will join us, the Montana Senate President, and Steve White, badbills.com, will come in, and the legislature is getting down to the wire. It's getting time to pony up, and so I think the end of the month here, they're pretty well done. So we're going to see where they are, what's going on, what bills are dead, what bills are going on, and all of that, Shane. So we'll see what's up with that. So let's see. Going back to our 5 things you need to know, Rwanda began commemorating the 25th anniversary of the genocide that killed a tenth of the nation's population on Sunday. Rwandans will reportedly mourn for 100 days, which was the amount of time it took for 800,000 Rwandans to die in the genocide. Most of the victims were minority. What is that, Shane? Tutsi.
Tutsi, baby.
Okay. Tutsi, goodbye. Who were massacred by Hutu extremists. Yeah, Hutu extremists. All right, I should have you read this. So anyway, the president who led the rebel force that ended the genocide launched the commemoration by lighting a remembrance flame at a genocide memorial in the capital city, and said the resilience and bravery of the genocide survivors represents Rwandan character in its purest form. So, 25 years, we kind of remember that thing going on, and everybody said, well, America should get in there and do something about that. And,
yeah, it's like the Khmer Rouge in Thailand, you know. And
the killing fields. Yeah, the killing fields.
The killing fields, yeah. It's sad.
Yeah, so. All right, well, the other thing not on the 5 things, and I can't believe it's not on there, we got a big game tonight, NCAA championship between Virginia and Texas Tech, and great games on Saturday.
Were they ever
even if you're not a sports fan, they were still good games.
Incredible.
Yeah.
The talent of these young men is just incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of them in the NBA draft, I'm sure. Some of them,
well,
anyway.
The thing is, they play for their heart and their college because they don't get paid anything, and that's what's remarkable about the whole March Madness. But Texas Tech and Virginia, they're on it.
Yeah. Well, if Texas Tech brings the same game they brought Saturday night, I think Virginia's in for a handful of. Because they were knocking them down on Saturday night, so we'll see.
Especially the 3-pointers. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a friend I went to high school with who retired as a professor from Texas Tech, so he and I have been communicating a little bit on Facebook as to, he's sending me pictures of all the people showing up downtown and all that stuff, and but I don't know, Texas Tech. I don't think there's going to be riots if they win. I don't know about Virginia. I don't know.
We'll see. But Texas Tech beating Michigan State it's just one of those amazing games.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen. That's why I say if Texas Tech brings the game they brought to Michigan State to Virginia, that's going to be a pretty interesting game. So, unfortunately, I will not get to see it because I will be in bed.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can tape it.
Yeah. Well, I'll get the score the following morning. We'll see what
that's
happens.
Right, you will.
Anyway, we'll see. I don't know. The odds are Virginia's are favored by 1 point, Shane. 1 point.
There you go.
Virginia. So put your money down.
Yeah, that's right. You can bet.
A 1 point spread. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to take that bet or not.
There you are.
Lay it off on both teams and you'll lose $1, huh? Depending on what happens.
So I think we should just mention that General Haftar is advancing towards Tripoli in Libya. And, he was the general under Gaddafi. So that nation is coming to a head. Everyone's evacuating, running, scared. And almost all the foreign people that were stationed in the capital of Libya is Tripoli. They've left.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
All United Nations peace forces are gone.
Yeah.
And including the Indian evacuation of the 15 of its reserve police force they had there. Wow.
Yeah. From our text line, 478-8298, Trump is afraid his base will learn he donates to Democrats and not to charity, which is already public record, and that he's not rich. I don't care. Do you? Well,
No.
I don't particularly care if he's rich or not. Forbes says he's rich. There's not too many publications or any groups out there that says he's not rich. So, you know.
Well, you don't fly around in a Boeing 357, right? That's gold plated and not, with your own pilot hangar. That's a big expense. So I think he's rich.
Well, I'm sure he has a couple bucks. He can rub a couple nickels together if he had to. But whether he's I don't know whether he's a billionaire or not. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. Kennedy was a billionaire, but came from the family, not from him.
That's right.
Particularly.
Daddy Joe.
And as I said, he didn't release his tax returns, and nobody seemed to worry about that at all. And particularly with Dad being in the mob, he was a bootlegger. Come on, you got to tell me that Jack Kennedy's tax returns shouldn't have been micromanaged by Congress? I mean, come on, where's that deal? And then Nixon, everybody since Nixon up until Trump has released their returns. So, but the fact that everybody has released their returns, even Romney, shows nothing. I mean, there's nothing.
Right.
There's nothing there. You can go in and say, "Oh, well, he made this much money. Wow, well, good for him." But if I'm if you look at my tax return, my CPA tries to make my income as little as possible legally,
Yeah, of course. Everybody does.
I mean, that's what he's paid for. He's paid to look for any any loophole I can exploit or whatever. And, I want to sit there and say, wow, I didn't make any money at all last year. Wow, that's good.
Yes.
So, but I can do pretty much what I want to do when I want to do it, which is kind of nice. So it's a good thing.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. The tax returns, I think, are kind of a red herring. I seriously don't think you're going to find anything in the tax returns that I think over the years, if you have somebody that is a tax evader, this is usually a year in, year out thing. You're audited on a regular basis, you're paying fines, you're doing something, or paying it back or whatever. I don't know that Trump has been, I don't know how many times he's been audited. I don't know if he's ever had a clean audit recorded or not. I don't know, but I know, it's not in the news if he has been.
That's right.
So where is it?
That's the amazing. That's the amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, as long as he's been in business, 40 years at least, if not more.
Yeah, since the 80s, right?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that, where's the pattern of behavior? I guess. Now you can say, he did this, he did that, and whatever, and a lot of rich people do. Sometimes they do things that aren't really kosher, emotionally, but they're legal.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I can rip off this group, with this tax loophole, and they're left hanging the bag, much like General Motors did to the bondholders. Perfectly legal, but if you own the bonds, you're broke. So, there you are. Let's see, Shane, we got a few minutes left. What about a little stock report here before we get to we're getting to Steve White and Scott Sales?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. We always love talking about money, and
Yeah,
it's important because
since we are
everybody
talking
cares
about taxes and whatever.
That's right.
We got
And
just a few minutes left here, so.
the Dow's opened up down 161, Standard & Poor's 500 down 10, NASDAQ 31, and Europe is balanced. It basically, just there's no up or down. It's sort of just trading. But the interesting thing again today is looking at Asia that just closed, and boy, they're showing some strength. They were moderately down, but the strength so far this year is pretty cool. The Nike that was off 45. Shanghai was off 2.3. Shanghai 50 up 10. The Kospi was down 2. But the point is that with the rest of the world's economic situation as it is, it's doggone it, the place to be is America. Crude oil 63.97, so it's holding that $60 price. Brent is 70. Natural gas 269. Gasoline 197. Which is amazing considering we're paying $6 US a gallon here in Canada, and gold is back to 1,300. It likes that price, Tom. I'm amazed, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
$15 on silver, so it's holding 15 and riding the wave. Wheat is off a little bit, not just marginally, and soybeans. Of course, everybody cares about soybeans, and it's up 25 cents, so they're holding strong. Corn is doing well in anticipation of the crop announcements for this year, even with all the flooding in the Midwest. You'd think it might be up higher, but no, it's holding in there. Live cattle, fine. Lean hog 78. It's only down 15 cents. Copper is starting to show some strength at 292. If it breaks $3, that's a real positive sign of some global growth, but not happening yet. Steel is up to 4,000, which isn't unexpected because of what's happening in the U.S. and the demand for it, particularly your own. Lithium is up to 115. We're watching that because of the battery issue. Now, my Baltic Dry is 7.11, so it's up $12, meaning looks like the cost to ship something's getting expensive, so there may be growth on the horizon on a global basis. And I guess we should cover bonds real quick, although there's been no change other than what we've talked about. The U.S. 15 is 2.5, and the 30-year is 2.91, so it's still under 3%, which, both of us agree is sort of an interesting thing. And currencies, finally, folks, the euro at 112, the British pound is 130 with all the Brexit issues. So the U.S. dollar is king, the Canadian dollar is 135. So come to Canada, make 30% on your money.
There you go. All right. Oh, sounds good to me. I was trying to look up presidential tax returns here. I can't find the...
Oh, come on. Give them Venezuela's inflation, buddy.
Well, I should give them Venezuela's inflation, I guess, shouldn't I? Yeah, okay. Let's see. What would that be? Let me find it.
Well, it's here. Well over $1 billion, right?
Well, yeah, it's right up there. It's let's see, Venezuela, 2.295 million.
Wow.
Yeah, inflation rate. So, anyway. So.
Well, you remember as a kid, your dad taught you, a Chicago roll was a roll of $1 bills with a few 5s and 10s in the middle with a rubber band around it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine having a Chicago roll in Venezuela with $1 million bills?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Kennedy never released tax returns. Harry Truman released 45 and through 53. Nixon released 69 through 74. Trump released 74 to 77. Carter 77 to 81. And let's see. I got to go back to the other ones there.
I don't think Clinton had any. That's why they had to set up the foundation, right? Because remember, they were broke when they left the White House.
That's true. Yeah. Reagan was 81 to 89. Bush 89 to 93. Clinton 1993 to 2001. Gore 93 to 2001. Kerry only 5. Well, he released 5 tax returns, but 2004, he was another one that had a lot of money on the side, like Clinton did, or like Trump did. I'm sorry.
Kerry's wife owns Heinz.
Dick Cheney, 2001 to 2009, 8 tax returns. Bush released 8, 2001 to 2009. Sarah Palin, 2 tax returns released for her, 2008. McCain, 2 tax returns, 2008, and Rick Santorum, 4. Mike Pence has released 10, and Donald Trump, there is 1 tax return for 2005, which says he made taxable wages 980. It's hard to read because it's a copy. $998,000. So in 2005. So.
Yeah, and he was on the NBC show, so he was making big bucks, right? Made $25 million a year from that.
Yeah. So taxable interest, $9,460,000, and let's see his. Let's see what he actually. Roughly about 25 million, 36 million actually. So there you are in 2025.
What about Bernie? What about Bernie? Is he on your list?
Now, Bernie's not on the list yet because he hasn't declared, or, well, I guess he's declared, but he hasn't run. So if he gets a nomination, we'll see his tax returns, I'm sure.
I think Bernie's not going to run. He's just in it for a retirement fund.
4 minutes after the hour, it's Monday, April 8th, 2019, 40 degrees outside. Shima Tobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia, and Scott Sales. Steve White's in the house. No word from Scott Sales yet. That may be Scott there. Scott, is that you?
Well,
Nope, it isn't. Okay, let's not take that call. All right. Well, things are running along as smoothly as normal.
I'm sorry I'm here.
On Monday.
I'm really sorry.
I'm sorry I'm here. I wish I was anywhere but here.
It's Monday all the way. It's all the way.
Everything that can go wrong is going wrong. So.
Well, I came in anyway.
Yeah,
I braved that all that rain.
All right. Well, let's see here. Maybe this is Scott coming in. I don't know.
I hope so.
Well,
you can save the day.
Yeah. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on?
Oh, Tom, this is Scott Sales.
All right, man. There you are.
When I called in last time, there was a bad signal there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're having all kinds of issues this morning, but you sound pretty good so far. Steve White's in the house as well. Scott Sales on the line from the Helena, the president of the Montana Senate. And, well, gentlemen, Scott, where are we? We're getting down to the wire here a couple weeks.
Day 63, Scott.
2-3 weeks.
73,
at most. Maybe a little more than that if we go the whole distance, which I don't think we will. House Bill 2 cleared the House easily. It sailed through the Senate easily, too. So that is basically done. There were a couple amendments put on in the Senate, so theoretically the House could reject them. It could go to a conference committee, but that remains to be seen. Friday, they had the initial hearing on Medicaid expansion, and Health and Human Service Committee tabled the bill, and then the bill was moved from their possession to Finance and Claims, where we'll have another hearing. I assume it'll come out of that committee, probably amendment-free. So we'll have that on the agenda sometime this week. That's obviously those are the two big issues in this session. But that's
Scott,
where they're at.
I was going to ask you on House Bill 2. It looked like there was 14 amendments considered by the Senate, and I think 4 of them got adopted. What was the gist of all the amendments for House Bill 2? It was just individual line items that some people didn't like?
Well, there was I'll take them in my memory. I don't know if that would be in the correct. There was some sort of technical amendment that actually I wasn't on the floor for. I was running some errands, not errands outside the Capitol, but I had some other responsibilities. So I got up out of my chair and left during that debate, and they put a technical amendment on it. That was offered by the chairman of the committee. So I can't speak to that one directly. There was some money put in the bill in section, I believe it was D, maybe C. No, I think it was C, natural resources, that dealt with the good neighbor policy where now the federal government is supposed to coordinate with the state and local government. You probably are familiar with this, Steve, to try to get some logging projects done to clean up some of this dead wood and fire hazards that we have, and to kind of streamline that process. And so there was some money put in there to try to help facilitate that, and it had a sunset on it. That passed. There was a bill to add a couple $100,000. A number of years ago, we added a $3,000 stipend for expenses for representatives and senators during the interims, because we do travel around occasionally, like in my district where it's quite big. You might have to spend the night up in Helena to attend a meeting. And we've always had to pay all that expense out of our own pocket, whether you mail, a letter, all the meetings you attended, every letter you send out, every conference that you decided to attend that wasn't sanctioned by the legislature, which are very few. We were on the hook for all that. So a number of years ago, we said we're going to give $3,000 to every legislator for the 20 months of the interim to help alleviate that cost. And the federal government taxed us at almost 50% on that $3,000. So what we did was we want people to have that money to be able to do their jobs. So there was an amendment put on there to pay, and it basically pay the tax, so that each legislator would have a complete $3,000 for the 20-month period to conduct business, state business. That passed. There was an amendment that had to do with taking some money out of the marijuana fund, which, they're taxed, the medical marijuana people, and this money went into a special revenue account, and supposedly there was additional money there. So Senator Sands took some of that money out and put it over into an area for peer review counseling for drug addicts, alcoholics, gambling, people that have addictions, where these peers, the people that actually have had these problems before but are now supposedly rehabilitated, want to help others with their addiction problem. There was some money that was moved. And so I think that was the 4 amendments that were put on, if I remember correctly.
So those would be the 4 amendments that would have to be considered by the House then?
Right. So if the House didn't like those amendments, they could reject them. It would go to a conference committee. I would assume it would be just a conference committee just to deal with those 4 items. But actually, in the scheme of things, they were relatively small. So I would think the House would probably just accept them.
So if the House accepts them, then it's on its way to finish.
Yeah, it'll go to the governor for his signature. So then House Bill 2 will be completed. Now, there's a pile of what would be called, and I talked about this a week or 2 ago, these companion bills that deal with individual sections of House Bill 2. Those are still in the process, and obviously they all need, not all, but a certain percentage of them need to have, they need to pass because they have the coordinating and controlling type language that House Bill 2 lacks on some subject matters.
Okay, let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you're on the air. Thanks for waiting with Scott Sales and Steve White. What's up?
Yeah, I thought now that the political animals are all gathering, did everybody know that Jeff Sessions is giving a free lecture tonight at MSU Absorption Hall? So it's 7 o'clock tonight. Jeff Sessions giving a free lecture.
Okay.
Okay, that's it.
Thanks for the info. All right.
Yeah, that's a great. I certainly would attend that if I was Tim Bozeman. That sounds like a pretty good opportunity to learn something from the former senator and former attorney general.
Yeah, it's going to be the college Republicans, I guess, are putting that on. So that's going to be a good event.
Well, the what free speech that President just signed for college campuses.
Yeah, there you go.
There you are.
So Scott, with back to House Bill 2, that really is pretty amazing that actually could move through the system pretty well and pretty quickly. But when it hits the governor's desk, what's your sense?
You know, I can't predict what the governor would do, but I certainly haven't heard anything out of the governor's office that would indicate that he would veto it.
So there hasn't been. A lot of times he'll send his budget people to the hearings and kind of give, some pretty critical remarks about the current condition of the bill, to where you might have a sense that there could be a problem if it gets to his desk.
There's no indication that that's the case. I can tell you we're spending. I didn't vote for House Bill 2 again. This is my 8th time of voting no, because we just continue to spend more money and more money and more money. Right. The budget grows both from an overall standpoint with federal dollars, and it grows in just raw dollars with state funds in House Bill 2. So would have liked to have, maybe in the 16 years I've been up here, be able to vote for House Bill 2 once, but it just didn't happen.
And for the benefit of the listeners, House Bill 2 is the big bill. That is the bill that is the appropriations.
The money bill.
That's the money bill. And if there's any major reason that you've got 150 legislators spending 90 days in Helena every other year, it's for the 2-year budget, and this is where a lot of work has gone on, even between sessions, to get to this point.
Yeah, it's the only constitutional requirement of the legislature is to pass the spending bill. Right. Everything else is optional. That's mandatory.
And the interesting thing about the Senate side, as you well know, is HB 2, House Bill 2, as required, which starts in the House. All spending begins there. So the senators are waiting to see what's handed to them for them to consider, and if they don't like the way it looks, and you could have a big, and there have been big discussions in the past and disagreements, because you could have one party controlling the Senate, the other party controlling the House, and of course they have different ideas on how to spend money. In this particular instance, the only difference of party is the control of the executive branch, which would be the governor, and he has the veto pen. And so everybody has to work to make this thing happen, and I'm pretty impressed with how well it's gone through the system.
Well, Steve, had we sent a budget to the governor that flatlined spending, or heaven forbid reduced it even a small percent, then there would be a huge weeping and gnashing of teeth, and the governor would veto it.
Yep.
I think government from time to time should take a breather, and just like we do in our own private lives, where some years are just a little leaner than others, and that we, in our own private business or our own private household budgets, we make changes. I've had a couple different occasions in my lifetime where I had to curtail spending greatly because of employment or other things that came up. Government, that never happens. I mean, I hate to say it, but even in the years that we talk about, like 2 years ago, where we talked about this budget crisis, overall funds still grew. Right. And even if you go back all the way to 2003, where we actually did cut House Bill 2, which we reduced overall spending for the state expenditures, the federal spending more than made up for those cuts that we made to House Bill 2. So overall spending even went up in 2003, which was the last time we had a real, in my opinion, a pretty major downturn in revenue. So this thing has a life of its own. It just continues to grow. Unfortunately, it's designed to do that. And when you have a Democrat governor, even with a Republican legislature, there's this big, since we're part-time people that need to get back to our jobs, our families, and our personal responsibilities, there is this big, I'll even call it a perverse incentive to get it over with regardless. Yeah. Because he can afford to stay here indefinitely. Most of us can't.
Right. Well, I reflect back to when I was a county commissioner, that some of our easiest budget years was when the money wasn't there. And
absolutely.
The decisions are easy to make when the money isn't there. Now, we could raise taxes, but we were determined not to. And I think everybody that came in for money knew that. And so there was not a lot of expectation that there was going to be money given to different departments or different agencies. But in the case of the state, the legislature, they can raise taxes, and the governor can raise taxes, and And if there was a determination, as you well know, not to do that, then you could easily say, well, the money isn't there, so we don't have any money to spend.
You're absolutely right, Steve. The 3 budget sessions that are the easiest in my memory were the ones where money was short. The really difficult ones are when you have a little money or a lot of money, because then there's just this big push to spend it all.
Right.
And then there's all these competing ideas on how the best way to spend it. And quite frankly, we haven't given any tax reliefs to the citizens of Montana since that 03 session, when we cut the capital gains and income tax rates from around 12.6% down to 6.9%. That was the last real tax relief the citizens of Montana have had, and we've nickel and dimed them ever since. I mean, even this session, inside of the Medicaid expansion bill, there's a 2% increase. I think it's going to come out for premium tax on the Workmen's Compensation Fund to help pay for that. There's a $20 a head bed tax increase in there for both outpatient and inpatient. We've passed tax increases. You know, I really had hoped that the Republicans would resist a lot of this, but unfortunately, there's a lot of Republicans. In fact, it's mostly Republicans that have carried all these tax increases, and I could go through the whole list if you want, or at least a partial list, but there's been a lot of it going on.
Well, and then there have been a few tax bills that have been killed. One was the local option tax, which came at a late date, House Bill 740 by Representative Pope, and that would have provided opportunity for the cities to ask for a local option tax. And then you had the gateway tax, which was related to the counties that neighbored the...
Mako was in favor of that.
Mako was in favor of that, and that was House Bill 435, and that was killed. The one that is still alive, though, that had some interesting hearings last week, and I don't know if you're aware of this, it was Senate Bill 241, which is Wellborn's resort tax. That did come out of the Senate. It was given over to the House for consideration. It had its hearing last week before House taxation, and I watched most of it, and I thought it was a pretty good hearing with a lot of really good questions. I was very surprised, though, to see that thing came out of the House Taxation Committee 18-0, and it came off the floor of the Senate 33-16. So it wasn't clean sailing for it in the Senate side, but for the House, it came out pretty well, and that provides a percentage, 1% increase if voted in approval by the resort tax districts, and this would be Big Sky in the Gallatin County area, that they could increase their resort tax by 1%. But it's an interesting bill, and I don't know if I think you probably saw this, that the...
No, I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah, the 1% is designated specifically to infrastructure, and it defines very specifically what infrastructure is. But I was...
Yeah, what the project is. It's got to be specific, and it's voted. It has to be voted for that purpose alone, and when it's paid off, it goes away.
That is amazing. I was surprised to see that. It's usually you see a sunset that says, well, after 2 years it goes away. But in this case, said, hey, you want the money? You're telling everybody you need the money for this purpose. And you and I both know that oftentimes government will start out with a good reason for having the money, and then when they've paid off that particular need, then they find another need that is of equal necessity, and so it just never goes away.
All right.
So
actually, that bill, we've had over the years many opportunities to and desire by these resort communities to raise that bed tax. And it's been rejected repeatedly, but they spent a lot of time in crafting this bill that made it much more palatable for the taxpayers. And let's be honest, in these communities, probably 75-80% of that money is paid for by out-of-staters.
Right. Well, and with Big Sky, they do have some needs for their water sewer system up there, and that's who's using it is those people that are visiting the Big Sky area. So they, the resort tax they're collecting, it just doesn't, they're not really using it for probably the purpose that would be the best for that community.
Yeah. But this is good because it's earmarked.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I did say bed tax, but you're right. It is resort tax,
right.
And those are two separate taxes in their entirety.
Yeah, the thing that's really interesting about the Big Sky situation is that it really encompasses two counties, because the Madison County and Gallen County line kind of bisect the district, and they have their own elected board, and they manage that money pretty well, and we're talking millions of dollars that they've got at their disposal, and it's a lot of money. And I think this bed tax, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it translates to about $1 million a year, doesn't it? Seems like
the bed tax or
the resort tax? This 1%.
No, yeah, I think it'd be at least that.
Yeah, it's because I think they collected like $7 million or something last year, and it's a lot of money. So when you buy a ski ticket up there, or anything in the mountain village,
and another thing that people need to keep in mind is that just the portion of Big Sky that's in Gallatin County.
Right.
We were told that they pay almost 25% of all property tax in the entire county, which is, to me, mind-boggling. That one little tiny area just goes to, tell how much property value is in that one little area of our county, that they would be responsible for a quarter of the property taxes.
Well, it's even more mind-boggling to realize what Madison County, how they benefit from the Big Sky area. Madison County provides money for 2 deputies up there. But there are no roads up there, public roads that go down to Madison County. You have to drive all the way around to get to the county seat of Madison County, which a lot of people assume is Ennis, but it's not. It's Virginia City. So you have, I think it's 75% of the money for schools in Madison County are paid for by the taxes collected in the Yellowstone Club and Moonlight Basin area. And so there is a ton of money that is going across that divide over into Madison County. But they do provide money for some of the needs up there, but it really is the Gallatin County that is where people are driving through when they're coming and going.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting thing up there. I don't think there's anything like it in the country that is quite like that.
Where are we at with Medicaid, Steve? Or Scott, rather.
Yeah, say Scott.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was had its initial hearing in the Senate in Health and Human Services on Friday. It was tabled. That's a pretty conservative committee. The handwriting was on the wall that there was enough votes to blast that bill out to the floor. So the wisdom was to, just move it over to the Senate Finance and Claims, where it would end up eventually anyway. Mm-hmm. So the chairman of Health and Human Services didn't fight that motion, and it was moved over to Health and Human Services. I assume it'll have another cursory type hearing. I'm sure it won't be anywhere near in depth. That deals with more of the money and less with the policy. I don't think there's enough votes to put any more amendments on that bill in committee, but I think when it gets to the floor, there's going to be an attempt to put amendments on the floor to maybe strengthen the sideboards on that bill to bring some more fiscal accountability to it.
Do you think that bill will end up in a conference committee or something?
It could. But I doubt it, because I think the deal has already been struck with the moderate Republicans and the Democrats. The governor's already bought off on the bill in its current form. There's going to be, Steve, that's who really controls the financial portion of this session or of the legislature are the moderate Republicans and the Democrats.
Right.
They band together and they pass all the fiscal type stuff. Most of us are pretty much inconsequential to the process when it comes to any of the spending. I hate to say that, but that's just the way it is.
So there's no big money bills that have either passed or been rejected that would fit into this and either add money or detract money from Medicaid?
Well, I think the big one would be taking that 2% premium tax out that where, people that I think are totally unrelated, which are the workman's compensation for the state fund, take that out. I think I've heard that there's some movement in that direction, and so either that bill would be curtailed in its spending a little tiny bit, or they're going to find some other revenue source to pork it back up. Mm-hmm. But I've heard that there is an agreement to do that. We'll see if that happens.
All right.
But, the hospitals are the ones that are really making out like bandits on this thing. I don't know if it made it into the Bozeman Chronicle or if you saw it, but there was a list, and I paid almost $100 out of my own pocket to have this list published, along with some of the more conservative members of the Senate. And we sent it out to quite a few that listed how much money each individual hospital has received via Medicaid expansion. And I mean, it is a lot of money. We're talking tens of millions of dollars. And they're going to even get more. If you look at this bill, Medicaid bill, in its current fashion, just the $20 bed tax increase, and that's the tax that we all pay. Like I had a little bit of surgery done last June, spent 2 nights in the hospital. I think the bed tax was $50 a night. Now it's going to be like $70 a night. So that was $140, and it goes. And what they like about it is that money then is matched basically 2 to 1 by Medicaid and then given to the hospitals. And it's a real shell game because it really doesn't it's a self-induced tax for the sole purpose of getting more money out of the federal government for Medicaid. And with this tax increase, it's going to amount to about a $300 million windfall for the hospitals.
All right. I'm up against the clock. Scott, hang on, and we'll be back. Scott Sales, Montana Senate President, Steve White, badbills.com in the house, Shane Tom on the line, and Tom, your morning mayor, in the house. And we'll continue the conversation after the news at the bottom of the hour, so stay tuned. A lot more to come. 26 minutes before the top of the hour. Sorry we're late coming back. We were listening to Shane and Scott talking to each other.
Taking a vacation, which was well-deserved, and he said he was going to float down the Colorado River, which is about 11 to 12-day trip, and it's a remarkable experience. I was telling him that I did it, and it's off my bucket list, and he's taking it off his. That's
all
terrific.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, as boring as it is, we got to get back to politics and bills and governor, legislature, Republicans, Democrats, whatever. So what else is going on? What did you guys talk about politically? Anything?
Well, in just raw politics, obviously it seems like a long ways off, but we got the 2020 election coming up, and last week another Republican joined the fray for governor. Senator Aloshevsky announced he's going to run for governor.
Yep.
Secretary of State Corey Stapleton had already entered the race, as well as Attorney General Tim Fox.
Right.
And a little lesser-known name out there, but I'll give him a little bit of a plug here, is Senator Gary Perry, who had served 8 years from Gallatin County in the Montana Senate. I believe he's made an effort to join the fray, too, a while back. I don't know if he's actually filed his paperwork or not.
I think it was last fall. I think that he told me that he gave me a card that he was running for governor. So
yeah, I know he has a website, and I talked to him briefly about that, and it's been quite a few months ago. But so that's 4. And there's speculation that Greg Gianforte is going to come back and run. That rumor, I think, has quite a bit of validity to it. And there's other people that have mentioned they might get into it. So it could be, quite a little Donnybrook.
Yeah, Greg Gianforte was with us on Friday in studio, and we talked to him. In fact, if you missed that conversation, it's on our website, so you can go over and check it out. Somebody texted in, "Don't run for governor. We want Fox." and he kind of danced around that a little bit, and he says, "Well, whatever."
I think all these guys should stay home. I mean, the Republicans had an incredible sweep back in 2016. It was the first time, I think, since 1928 that the Republicans have had 4 of the 5 land board seats.
Yeah, no,
but
you're right.
If Gianforte makes this decision to move, the whole deck is going to get reshuffled. And actually, we'll have every land board seat will be up for, with the exception of Elsie Arnson, it's going to run for re-election. But the other 4 seats are all going to be open because I have heard that. I'm not going to say, but there's other people that are going to run for that open congressional seat if Greg bails out. And we have, and I think Kathleen Williams has already announced she's going to run for that seat.
Yeah, did last week.
So I think there would be a lot of wisdom. And if I could encourage Greg or these other individuals to stay put, that would be my advice. But
well,
that's what's looming on the political front.
He's back every weekend, Scott. So take him out to lunch and.
Well, I don't know if my opinion amounts to a whole lot.
Well,
but,
it can't hurt. Go on.
Just don't take him out to the woodshed.
Yeah, there you are. Yeah.
Well, Scott, we know that every time there's an open seat, there's a lot of people lined up to take a shot at it of both parties. So it's
politics abhors a vacuum. So when that vacuum's created, there's an immediate rush.
Right.
And I could see almost every one of these land board seats having 3 or 4 people running for them in a primary. It could get very expensive for Republicans, and it could get kind of nasty because typically what we do is we beat the heck out of each other during the primary process and give a lot of really good sound bites to the Democrat Party in the fall. And
right.
And a lot of that could be prevented if the people would just stay put.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's a bunch of people running for the Democratic nomination for president, I hear.
Yeah. They're lined up there. So
where are they? I missed that. Where are they lined up?
They're lined up to run for president.
Yeah,
including our own governor.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and he's not even on the list.
I was going to say, he hasn't declared, has he?
No.
Yeah,
no, but he has hired. I understand he's hired people in Ohio.
Oh yeah.
Iowa. And I know he's made many trips down there and elsewhere. So he's kicking the tires anyway. But boy, I tell you what, I think it's going to be difficult for him to get a lot of traction. He's the wrong sex. He's the wrong color. He's the wrong, possibly even gender. Gender identity might be even wrong. So for that primary is going to be, I think, pretty wild.
Well, I saw one of the early polls, and I don't know, there's probably 10 names on it, and there was like 3 or 4 of them were at 1%, and he was one of them. But the way I'm looking at it is that you've got another 30 or 40 weeks or something before things really start happening, and if we're getting one new face every week, that could be a pretty crowded primary.
Well, one of the things I wonder about, you sit around and you think about this, and I know Steve and Scott have both gone through this. You decide you're going to do something. You don't wait till the day you announce to get your ducks in a row.
Right.
You talk to people, you get some money going, and things like that. And I'm just thinking, I was wondering about that when we talked about Bullock. Is that the quicker you announce and get in there, all the people that know how to do this are gone. They're hired by other people, and the people that have the cash are going to hire the better people. So,
well, not only that, and then the donors. If you're one of the first ones out, they'll make a commitment to you, and then it's very difficult for them to backtrack once they've given an individual financial support. That often, most of the time, means that you're going to get their support in the long run too. So, I can't believe that he's going to get any traction in this presidential race whatsoever. I think he probably has multiple agendas around doing this, and I can't even see how he could possibly think he's going to end up even being a VP choice, because Montana with 3 electoral votes is not a very big prize. And even if he was on the ticket, I don't think Montana is going to vote Democrat in this next election cycle. I think they're going to vote Republican again. And so, I don't see that he brings a whole lot to a presidential ticket one way or the other. But, people convince themselves otherwise. It's amazing when people start whispering in your ear that you should do this or do that. A lot of people really start to believe that that information that's being, pressed upon them.
Well, that is a big.
Mr. Starbucks looked pretty good the other night on Fox, I have to tell you.
I watched that too, and I think he could be just as challenging for the Republicans as for the Democrats.
Yep.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, except for the fact that he wants a 26% corporate tax rate, and and that was the big thing I saw with him, and there's a couple other things, but
he's like the only candidate that's talking about fiscal accountability, though. I mean,
well,
the
that's
Republicans,
true.
I hate to say it, have ceded that ground to somebody else because they're as big a spenders as the Democrats are, both at the state and federal level. So we've lost that issue, and he spent a fair amount of time talking about the consequences of this bad fiscal behavior that has gone on for 40 years.
Well,
that does have appeal with the Republican. There's still, I don't know if you saw the latest poll. The debt was one of the things that registered the highest with the Republican voters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think too, Scott, that we'd be in error to assume that all Democrats are going along with AOC and the Green New Deal. I mean, that isn't completely endorsed by all the Democrat voters, and so
no, I think less than 50% actually think that's a good idea.
Absolutely, there's a lot of Democrats out there that don't go along with the far left agenda, and I think that's going to certainly have some influence on somebody that's going to run as an independent.
Yeah, I think you're right, Steve. I think if they do go far left and they pick somebody like Kamala Harris or Beto O'Rourke or one of these or Bernie Sanders, that then I think a guy like Schultz could siphon off Democrat votes.
Well, it plays good for CNN, but I don't think they're dealing with reality as to what Democrats are. They're not all of the same mindset. It's a diverse party, just like the Republican Party.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So it's but back to our legislature here. I'm still surprised that there's so much going on in the committee hearings. This week, you've got 105 bills going to come up for a hearing, and boy, the Senate is loaded. You've got 68 that are going to be have some Senate committee action to be done, and 37 in the House. And what's the following week going to look like? It seems like it should start to simmer down a little bit. There's only 400 bills left to work on.
Only 400 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's tongue in cheek.
No, it is really surprising that even compared to last session, I don't remember assigning this many bills this late to committee. The things you got to remember though is that we've crossed a couple major deadlines. So we just crossed today. We're crossing general Senate and House bills that have been amended had to be through the process. So even though there's a lot of general House and general Senate bills, or a fair number of them out there, they can't be amended at this point any longer. So they have to pass as is. So I think there's a fair number of those that could potentially just die because they might need an amendment and it's too late. And then we have another next on the 16th, a week from tomorrow, then all the revenue and appropriation bills that have an amendment on them have to be through the process. So that's what the big push is this week, is if for those revenue, we've assumed that the general House bills and general Senate bills are the way they're going to be or they're going to die because they can't be transmitted back without suspending the rules. So the next milestone is that if there's all the revenue and appropriation bills that are out there, they have to have, if they need amendments, they have to be on and pass through both bodies, or the body that has it in their possession by next Tuesday, or they're in trouble. So I think a fair number of these bills are just going to, I don't think they're going to make it to prime time. But there are a ton of cat and dog bills out there, which are individual appropriation bills outside of House Bill 2. And I hate to say it again, just like kind of the tax increases, most of those are Republican bills too, that spend additional money.
Well, there is a cat and dog bill. It's going to be on, I guess, tomorrow. There's going to be a hearing. It's House Bill 607. It's in the Senate, so better watch for this one. It's to allow for the manufacture and sale of pet treats. So there you go.
Manufacturing sale of what?
Pet treats.
Pet treats. TREATS.
Yeah.
Treats.
Oh,
Gonna make.
that one has escaped my radar.
I think it's escaped the radar of a lot of people. I just spotted it, but it's it's in House, it's in Senate Ag, so it's coming your way. So there's a dog and cat bill for you.
There you go.
All right, we need to take a quick break here, gentlemen, and we're going to do the rush update, and we'll be right back right after that. All right, welcome back. 9 minutes for the top of the hour. We're just winding down with Scott Sales, president of the Montana Senate, and Steve White, badbills.com, Shaman Taubman, half man, half amazing in Vancouver, British Columbia, and Tom Eaglehoff, your morning mayor, and you're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox. And gentlemen, what do we got to finish up with here? Steve, what do you got?
Well,
you're looking hard at that piece of paper, and
I was looking at the schedule here, and I was going to ask Scott that right in the middle of everything, there's going to be, I guess, an Easter break on the 19th through the 22nd. Looks like.
Yeah, Easter came extremely late this year, so it's not really I think, our best interest to have this break, but that's just where it is. So close to the very end. So I think there's going to be a real push to try to get done a week from this Friday, which would be the 19th. That, I think, is day 82, if I remember correctly.
Day 82 is going to be the Thursday right before the break.
Right. And so, it's a Thursday. I've never seen the legislature get out 8 days early. I really honestly think that's kind of a pipe dream.
Well,
I think more...
If there isn't a lot of, it doesn't sound like a lot of big fighting going on with HB2 right now. That maybe if they can, but they're going to have to get through all these bills that are sitting out there having hearings right now.
Well, speaking of one of them, we've got a text line here, 478-8298. What can Mr. Sales tell us about the bill in the Senate for postal workers to buy back sub time for retirement?
That would be a federal bill.
Yeah, that's a Fed.
Oh, is it a federal bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with us. We don't have any responsibility for the U.S. Postal Service.
Okay.
Good or bad.
So, write your congressman.
Yeah, there you go.
Send a letter to Greg Gianforte.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it's a Senate bill, so we better send it to Steve Daines.
Yeah, Steve Daines. There you go.
And Tester. Yeah, I can send it to those two. So
Scott, are you thinking that there is some possibility of completing before Easter? Then
Well, I think there is a possibility. But historically speaking, I'm thinking it's very slim. In the 8 sessions I've been involved with, I don't think we've ever gotten out more than 3 or 4 days early. So just historically speaking, it would be a giant milestone if we got out on day 82. It would be, and I've talked with staff that have been here, some of them 30 years. They've never seen that either. So we've got a lot of work really still to do, even though House Bill 2 has been streamlined and fast-tracked to some extent. And we've gotten employee pay out of the way and school funding bill out of the way. Like you said, there's 400 bills still out there that we got to deal with in the next, if that's going to happen, we got to deal with it in the next 10 days.
Well, the Senate's got House Bill 2 for third reading today, and I guess if it gets sent back over to the House for their consideration, what the Senate's done, they maybe could be done with it this week, and then it could go to the governor. The thing that is always a problem, as you well know, is the governor gets bills sent to him that if he vetoes them and things have their, the House and Senate are moving right along, and all of a sudden now there's a veto to deal with, and if you can't override it, you're going to have to mess around with it.
Well, and on that bill in particular, he has what's called an amendatory veto on light item. So I would be amazed if he doesn't try to put his fingerprints on it at the last second. I want more money here, I want less money there, and that's very easy for him to do. Or he can strike something out that we like, or put something in that we don't like. So there's a lot that can go wrong. Or it would have to be, it's like hitting the what I think it's called the cycle or whatever in baseball, where you get a double, a single, a triple, and a home run all in one game to get out of here by day 82.
Right. Yeah. Well, it is tough when you have all these bills that are coming down at you. And the thing that I was kind of marveling at is that of the 3,000 that were in the hopper, you've got virtually 1,200 that have that became bills. And I'm pretty surprised how many got killed. There's over 530 bills that have been killed either by the committee or on the floor of the House or Senate. So that's a lot of weeding out, and that's exactly why everybody's there.
Well, but you also have to remember, Steve, that until we sign die, really nothing's
changed. Oh, absolutely.
Because I've seen bills that at the very end that you thought were not part of the equation that get, they come back to life and the rules get suspended, and
that's why I love the way that it's denoted on the bill status system with the legislature. It has an asterisk next to the ones that have been tabled, but it doesn't say they're dead. It says they're probably dead.
Yeah.
Probably dead. Yeah.
Yeah. They're not pushing up daisies yet.
Yeah, they're not pushing up daisies.
They just have the seeds. The seeds are there, but no daisies.
But with this week, there's not a whole lot of really controversial things that are coming our way. There was one, though, that I didn't know if you knew anything about. It's going to be in the Senate, but it started in the House. It's House Bill 725. It allows sport wagering through the state lottery, and that's by Representative
Ryan Lynch.
And that's it's coming from Butte, and they have a lot of gambling bills coming out of Butte. That's historically, that's
how they live.
That's how they live.
Well, this has been the biggest session for gambling I've seen that I remember in the 8 that I've been here. We've had bills to 3 different sports wagering bills that are still alive. The dice bill has been already signed into law that allows private party dice games. There's a blackjack bill that cleared the House that's sitting in a Senate committee over here right now. So there's been a lot of gambling, more so than normal. And
is this an effort to bring in more taxes, Scott? It sounds like it.
It's sold, and there's a historical horse racing bill that just passed both the House and Senate too. It's more of a study bill. Tax revenue certainly has something to do with that. There's also, there's just I guess I would say a gambling tradition of some extent, probably coming from territorial days or early statehood in the state of Montana. Yeah. Montana actually is, in my opinion, in comparison to surrounding states, has always had more liberal gaming laws, and it just continues to go that way.
I don't think you can walk into many restaurants in town that don't have a casino hanging by somewhere, or a hotel or whatever. They got one here and there somewhere or other. So. And
I'm not opposed to gaming. In fact, I like to wager myself from time to time, but certainly there is a downside for it for people that have self-control problems. So, there's some social negatives to gaming, but, if I'm not opposed to it if people have self-control.
Well, I think the tough thing that I always see with it is some of the money that comes in from the taxation of the gaming industry goes to helping people with gambling addiction. So that always seems sort of counterproductive there.
Yeah.
Well, they know that they know it's an issue.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens. Anything else?
We got to go, guys.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for all your hard work over there, and good luck this week.
We'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Scott Sales, President of the Senate. And, hey, Shane, say goodbye.
Mayor, may everybody be happy, be safe.
All right. Hey, thanks, man. All right, that wraps that up. Steve White in the house. Thanks for coming in here again.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I enjoy it.
Thanks for all the info and everything. And for those of you who can't stream, we are recording the show, so we will have it up later. So if you missed it, maybe call some of your friends and that normally listen out of state or somewhere else, and we'll get that up as soon as we can. We'll see everybody bright and early tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.